Hello, and welcome to Paul McCalister Investigates. Today on my show is Susan McIntosh and Irene Burgess. Today we talk about the topic of aliens and UFOs. Some people have been abducted by UFOs, some haven't. Therefore, on my show this week we have a believer and we have a skeptic. So join me on Paul McCalister Investigates the Truth. So, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
So, Susan, I understand that you've written this book about UFOs and aliens, and obviously today on this show we're going to talk about your experiences of what happened to you, and of course, Irene. I understand that you've heard lots of stories over the years about UFOs and aliens, but obviously you're a complete skeptic. You don't believe a word of it. I understand. Okay, so we'll kick off with you then, Susan, if you don't mind.
Okay.
So could you take us through how old you was when this first happened to you?
Well, I was quite young. I was always very, very interested in like UFOs and aliens. And obviously when I lived at home with my parents, if I went out for the evening, I'd quite often walk home and sort of look up in the sky, see if there was anything a bit unusual. And also my mother at that time was also very much into this. So that's how it all started really. I used to read books, Chariots of the Gods, and got very, very interested in it. So later on in life, I thought, I had a strange experience. I went to bed one night and just started to nod off when a light came through my window. First of all, I thought it was like a car headlight, and then I sort of thought, that seems a bit strange. Well, anyway, I thought, just ignore it. And then the next thing I heard was my bedroom door opened, and I was absolutely petrified, and I basically almost went under my bed covers because I was so scared. And of course I was on my own, so I had nobody in the house with me. And there was this strange alien creature thing looking at me. I was absolutely petrified, didn't know what to say. Anyway, the next thing I know, I sort of went into some sort of, as I thought, a deep sleep. And what seemed only like a few minutes, next thing I sort of woke up and had lost that time. And I had sort of strange marks sort of on my arm. And I thought, that's funny. And I sort of vaguely remembered seeing this strange looking creature. So I just sort of think I was abducted because there was some sort of implant in my arm. So I do believe I've been abducted.
Okay.
Other people probably think I'm crazy. I really do believe I have.
Okay. And so when you talk about the aliens, could you describe them exactly?
Well, this one was what they call a grey.
Okay.
So it had the big sort of slanty black eyes, and looked like he was in sort of like a grey leather outfit, because they don't sort of wear clothes as such.
Right,
that's really all I remember about what they look like. They have the little nose and a little slit for the mouth. Don't seem to have ears as such, just holes. But I can't remember an awful lot more. Not really, but I know that this time went missing, but it's almost like you're unconscious. And they'd obviously put me out and put this thing in. I did actually go to the doctors. I didn't really know. I'd obviously just fell over and cut myself, and I was just imagining it all.
Yeah.
But I know that something came into my bedroom.
You claim that you were paralysed the moment that you saw the light come into the room and the creatures surrounded the bed. You said you were completely paralysed.
Well, I was petrified.
In your email.
I was petrified. So it is sort of almost like you paralysed. It could have been, something they'd done, but it's sort of a bit like a shock thing and what have you. But I know that I was definitely abducted.
Okay. And Irene, what do you make of this? To be honest, you've heard obviously Susan's story.
Well,
so what do you make of
we
this?
talked a lot about it. We always looked up to the sky, my daughter and I, and thought we'd see a flying saucer.
Yeah.
But then we'd talk about it again, and then someone would come up and say, "Oh, you're imagining it," you know.
Yeah.
And we didn't, because we both saw it at the same time, you know.
Yeah.
So, but we were always very, very interested
Yeah.
in these things we heard on the telly and saw.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's hard
Okay.
to believe
But
in a way.
you're
But
saying
we
that.
did feel that way about it.
But your husband was a complete skeptic.
Yeah, he thought, "Oh, wasting your time, you'll never see anything like that," you know.
Yeah.
He knew it all, you know.
Yeah.
So he didn't take too much notice, but he liked to play up about it, you know.
But I understand though that at the same time you'd mentioned in your notes as well, the emails that we've received, was that you were a complete non-believer, complete skeptic yourself as well.
Yeah, I really was, but at the back of my mind I used to think it's awful really when you're not sure. You shouldn't say really,
No.
should you?
Because I understand that when you were younger, back in your time, you said that there was no such thing. They were never talked about.
I never heard of anything like that. No.
But this is where we were talking about the religion coming into it as well. So
yes.
is this God's work or is this aliens' work? I mean, what do you really? Where do you go
there
with this
again,
one?
One person will believe it because of religion, and then another will contradict. You know, it goes
Absolutely,
with
yeah.
chatting away about
Yeah,
these
right.
things.
Mhm.
Nobody's really been sure, I think, you
No.
know, about it.
Susan, just come back to you
Mhm.
quickly. So do you agree that, I mean, as per the information we received on the show, that Irene had claimed that she was a non-believer. She couldn't understand how this could happen to a person. And in fact, could it even be down to narcolepsy, which is a state of mind between sleep and awake? That was another word that was mentioned in her report to us, kind of thing, and what she believes as well. Could that be the case?
Well, I suppose so. I suppose
Yeah.
just about if you don't really believe in it, you think it's rubbish, you're not going to believe anything, are you?
No.
But the thing is, there's been so many sightings. There's lots of people that have claimed to be abducted,
But
me
surely-
being one of them. What is this? If it isn't happening, what is it then? Is it? Are we dreaming? Is it rubbish? You know, there's so many books around that state that you know it's true, and that we can't be the only people here, can't be the only planet that has life on it.
But you agree, though, Susan. You agree that the photographs can be forged. I mean, you talk about all this CGI, computer-generated
Yes.
images now, these graphics. And there's so many clever photographers and filmmakers out there these days that things can be fraudulently created. You know that, and of course, as I've always said, that gives the skeptics the satisfaction that they believe. You know that and the fact that when you look at these photographs. Before that, they seem to be quite blurry, very well distorted.
Oh, when people, yeah.
So you know, what do you make of that?
Well, you see, this is it. There are so many fraudster people out there. So I think in the case where sort of things are blurred, like they probably are not real. But I'm sure people have seen them. But obviously, if you haven't got your camera with you, you can't film it, can you?
No.
You know, so we're only relying on people that are trying to make money out of it.
Yeah.
But deep down, I do believe there are such things. You know.
And for someone who hasn't, you know, claimed to have come in contact with a extraterrestrial beings from another world and that, why would there be? Could you know, what do you take on that? You know, why would there be other civilizations out there? What would?
Well, I just can't believe we're the only living beings. You know, we're the only. I mean, obviously, I can't say humans because they may not be human on another planet. But I can't believe in the whole of the universe that we are the only planet that has civilization. Yeah, so in my book, I've sort of wrote down, you know, my experience and obviously things that I've learned throughout the years or that I believe in. You know, it's quite a simple book. You know, quite nice sized print, not too thick, so you know it doesn't take too long to read.
Yeah.
But there's some just very interesting articles that I've wrote about. You know, about there's sort of lots of things to do with like the crop circles, which was quite
which I think we'll come to
a
next.
thing in its time. You know, I remember it being quite a few years ago. How you know in various different areas, sort of mainly in the UK, how people would get up and they'd be like, especially if they live near fields, would be a crop circle, which had been created overnight. Seems you know very hard to think that somebody just went out one night and created that.
Yeah.
I do believe that something possibly came from outer space and did that. You know, probably some sort of magnetic sort of thing on a spacecraft.
And that was an interesting point that you put into your book about the crop circles there, which really grabbed my attention. Obviously, a lot of crop circles, most of them in England, of all places. I mean, you're hearing that the United States of America, that you tend to find that there is more of UFOs hovering in the sky, or the alien abduction side of it. But in England, we have the biggest percentage of crop circles. Now, coming to you, Irene, as well. So this idea of a craft coming down overnight creating crop circles,
Yes,
but yet you had all the agricultural equipment to do them yourself. So could that? What do you make of that?
Well, we had when I was very young, a very big, of all this talk in the village. I lived in the village, you see. And one day when we went out, and it was all fields and things, and just small roads that they'd built. And in this field was it had been harvested with corn, and then in one side of it was a big square, and there was all nice drawings and everything in this square. It was absolutely perfect, and they never knew how it got there because it was just done overnight. So that was very convincing, really, wasn't it?
That's correct.
So I don't know what to believe, only that I know that is true.
So you actually saw it.
So
You actually
they
witnessed
think
that yourself.
someone that could walk about and do things in such short times believe that they could do that,
And what can I just ask you, Irene? What sort of year that was? How far back
Well, I was
that?
going back to my late teens then, and we lived out on a farm, and used to have to ride on a cycle, by these fields, and because they're all open, miles of open land, So everybody was very, very concerned about it, and got very excited and all things, but we never saw anything or saw anyone. And then, of course, the farmer came along and ploughed his field again and made it right, So.
You mentioned something else in your book that I was going to come to. But I think we've already. I think you were just about to touch on that
Yes, I was
yourself.
going to say the most interesting one to me is what happened at Rendlesham.
The Rendlesham Forest incident, yes,
Because
of course.
that is probably one of the best alien UFO things that actually happened. I mean,
Sure.
obviously it was an air base.
Of course.
In
Well, we'll
Suffolk.
come to that. We'll come to that shortly. Sorry to cut you off there, but I'm just gonna. We'll come to that shortly in a few minutes' time. But I think we'll go for a commercial break. So, see you after the break.